Hey guys, tonight we're going to take a journey back in time to the High Middle Ages. We're not going to be visiting the grand castles of knights or the hallowed halls of a monastery. Instead, we're going to explore the world from the very bottom. From the perspective of the common man, we're going to be looking at the awful, strange, and often disgusting jobs that were a daily reality for the vast majority of the population in a world without modern technology, sanitation, or workplace safety laws. This is a story about the endless, backbreaking, and thankless toil that was the true foundation of the medieval world. And let's be brutally honest, you, with your modern resume filled with skills like proficient in Microsoft Office and your expectation of a weekend, would not have fared well. Your attempt to explain to a feudal lord that you needed to leave your unpaid farm labor early for a mental health day would have been met with a level of confused, violent disapproval that would make your worst boss look like a gentle and caring mentor. You'd be lucky to keep all your fingers. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Your support is what allows me to keep digging up these fascinating and often grim realities of our shared past. And as always, I'd love to see where in the world you are listening from. Please post your city or country and the local time in the comments. It's always a joy to see our global community gathering for our nightly story. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your story, and the story of 90% of the people in your world, begins and ends with the soil. Before we can explore the strange and specialized awful jobs of the towns in the wilderness, we must first understand the great, foundational, and almost universal awful job of the Middle Ages. Your life is one of endless toil as a serf. You are born in a small, windowless, wattle and daub hut with a dirt floor and a leaky thatched roof, which you share with your entire family and, in the winter, your most valuable livestock. Your world is a single manorial estate in the English countryside. It is a small, self-contained universe consisting of your village of a few dozen families, a small stone church, and, looming over it all from the nearby hill, the great cold, stone manor house of your lord. You are not a slave, not in the way a Roman was. You cannot be bought and sold as an individual, but you are not a free man. You are a villain, a serf. And this is a common historical fact that defines your entire existence. You are legally tied to the land. You cannot leave this manor without your lord's permission, a permission that is almost never granted. If your lord sells this land, you and your family are sold with it, as part of the property, listed alongside the woodlands, the streams, and the number of oxen. You are a feature of the landscape, a piece of human real estate. Your life is a cycle of unending labor, divided into two parts. The first part is the work you do to survive. Your family has the right to cultivate a number of strips of land, scattered throughout the village's great open fields. From this land, you must grow the meager crop of barley, oats, and peas that will feed you and your family for the year. This work is a constant, back-breaking struggle against the weather, the pests, and the poor quality soil. But that is not your primary job. Your primary job is to work for your lord. This is the system of corvée labor, the rent you pay for your existence, paid not in coin, but in the sweat of your own body. For 3 days of every week, you are required to leave your own small, struggling crops and report for work on the lord's personal land, his domain. This work is unpaid. It is your fundamental obligation. You are up before the sun. Your breakfast a piece of hard, dark barley bread and a cup of watery ale. You then join the other men of the village, and you walk to the Lord's great fields, which are the best, most fertile lands on the entire manor. And you work, You plow his fields with his great, heavy plow, which is pulled by a team of 8 oxen that you are all collectively responsible for. You sow his seed, you weed his crops, you do all of this under the watchful, critical eye of the reeve, a fellow serf appointed by the Lord to be his overseer, a man whose own position depends on his ability to squeeze the maximum amount of labor out of you and your neighbors. During the busiest times of the year, the haymaking and the harvest, you are required to perform boon works, extra days of unpaid labor, where you must abandon your own ripening crops to ensure that the Lord's harvest is brought in first. Your lack of freedom is not just about labor, it is about every aspect of your life. When you have finally harvested your own meager portion of grain, you are not allowed to grind it into flour yourself. You must take it to the Lord's mill, and the Lord's miller, a man widely and correctly suspected of being a thief, will take a portion of your flour, the mulcher. As a fee for using the mill, you must then take your flour to the Lord's great oven, the only one in the village, to have it baked into bread, and the Lord's baker will take a portion of your dough as his fee. It is a closed, inescapable economic system, designed to extract a portion of your wealth at every single stage of your survival. The Lord is very generous. He lets you use his flour mill, and he only charges you a small fee, which is a large portion of the flour you just grew through backbreaking labor. It's a great deal for everyone, mostly him. Even your family is not entirely your own. If your daughter wishes to marry a man from a neighboring manor, you must first pay a fee to your lord, the merchant, a payment for the loss of a valuable female laborer. When your father dies, you cannot simply inherit the right to work his strips of land. You must pay the Harriet, a death tax. This usually means giving the Lord your family's best animal, your only ox. Perhaps an economically crippling blow that ensures your family will begin the next generation in a state of even deeper poverty and dependence. Historians will one day debate the true nature of this system. Was it a system of pure, naked exploitation? Or was there a degree of paternalistic reciprocity to it the Lord, in theory, had an obligation to protect you from the raids of outside armies, to provide justice in his manorial court, and to perhaps open his own granaries to prevent you from starving during a famine? But you know the reality. The Lord's protection is a distant, abstract concept. The daily, grinding reality of your unpaid labor is not. You are a prisoner of your own birth. You look at the dirt track that leads away from your village, the road that goes out into the wider world, and you know that you can never take it. To run away, to become a masterless man, is a crime. You would be hunted down and brutally punished, branded or flogged. And so you work. You work until your back is a permanent, aching curve and your hands are a mass of gnarled calluses. You live a life of profound, inescapable, and hereditary misery. You have job security of a sort. You have the absolute security of knowing that you will be doing this same work, on this same land, for this same master, for the rest of your life, and that your children will inherit that same. Terrible security after you are gone. But what if you could escape? What if a great plague came and shattered this old, feudal order? What if you did run away to the anonymity of the great, stinking and opportunity-filled city? What other awful jobs might await a man who has traded the familiar? Green prison of the countryside for the strange. New and equally miserable prisons of the town. You have done the unthinkable. You have run away. You have broken the sacred bond that tied you to your Lord and to the land of your birth. You are a masterless man, a fugitive, a ghost in the medieval world. But you are free, or so you tell yourself. Your freedom is the freedom of a stray dog, the freedom to starve, the freedom to be arrested and branded as a vagrant in any town you enter. You have escaped the predictable, grinding misery of serfdom, you have now entered the unpredictable, terrifying misery of a life without a place. You need to eat. You need to earn a coin, but you have no trade, no skill other than the hard labor of the farm, in the bustling town you have fled to. You search for work, and you find that for a man with a strong back and no questions asked. There is a certain kind of employment to be had. It is a strange and deeply unpleasant. Corner of the medical supply trade, you are about to become a leech collector. Your new workplace is not a field or a workshop. It is the stagnant, swampy marshland that lies just outside the town's walls. You arrive at the edge of a great, still pond, its surface covered in a green scum of algae, the air thick with the buzzing of mosquitoes and the smell of decay. This, your new employer, a gruff and unkempt man who sells leeches to the town's barber surgeons, tells you is a prime location. He gives you your tools. They are simple: a large clay pot with a perforated lid and a small bag of salt. Your real tool, your primary piece of equipment, is your own body. You roll up the legs of your rough woolen trousers as high as they will go, exposing your pale, bare legs. And then you wade into the pond. The water is cold at first, but it is not a clean, refreshing cold. It is the cold of a still and lifeless thing. The bottom is a deep, soft, and profoundly disgusting layer of sucking mud and rotting vegetation. You can feel slimy, unseen things brushing against your ankles. And now you begin your work. The work consists of standing perfectly still in the knee-deep, stagnant water and waiting. You are the bait. You are the living, breathing, warm-blooded lure. You are a walking buffet for the creatures you have come to harvest. It does not take long. The first one feels like a slight, tickling sensation on your calf. You look down and you see it. A small, dark, ribbon-like creature undulating through the water towards you. It is a medicinal leech, Hirudo medicinalis. It reaches your leg. You feel a tiny sharp pinch, like the bite of an ant. As it attaches its three-bladed jaw to your skin, you watch, with a mixture of fascination and revulsion, as its segmented body begins to gently pulsate, drawing your own blood into itself. Then another one arrives, and another. Soon, a dozen or more of them are attached to your legs, all of them feeding, their bodies growing plumper and darker as they fill with your life force. You must endure this. You must stand still and allow them to drink their fill. This is the job. This is a common historical fact of your time, in a world where medicine is dominated by the theory of the four humors. Bloodletting is a primary treatment for almost any ailment, from a fever to a headache to a broken heart. And leeches are a vital tool for the physician and the barber surgeon. They are a natural and gentle way of removing the bad blood, the excess humor that is believed to be the cause of the sickness. The demand for medicinal leeches is immense, and you are now a key, if humble. Part of this great medical supply chain, the job is not just disgusting, it is dangerous. The stagnant water you are standing in is a rich soup of bacteria. The small, open wounds that the leeches create on your legs are open doorways for these invisible invaders. A simple infection is a constant risk, and in your world without antibiotics, a simple infection can easily lead to a festering sore, to blood poisoning, and to death. You are also losing blood, and while a single day's work will not harm you, doing this day after day can lead to a state of chronic anemia, leaving you perpetually weak and tired after an hour or so, when your legs are a horrifying, writhing landscape of bloated, feeding leeches. The harvest can begin. You slowly, carefully, wade back to the shore. Now you must attach them. You cannot simply pull them off. Their jaws are strong, and you would tear your own skin. you take a pinch of the salt you were given and you apply it to the head of the first leech. The creature reacts instantly, recoiling from the salt and detaching itself from your leg. You pick the slimy, blood-filled worm off your skin and place it carefully into your clay pot, along with some wet moss to keep it alive. You repeat this process, one by one, until your legs are free. They are now covered in small, circular, bleeding wounds, each one a testament to your morning's work. The wounds will continue to bleed for some time, as the leech's saliva contains an anticoagulant, a substance that prevents blood from clotting. And they will itch. The itching, in the days to come, will be a maddening, constant reminder of your strange and awful profession. Historians will one day debate the ecological impact of this trade. In the centuries to come, the demand for leeches will be so great that it will lead to their near extinction in many parts of Europe. A process of over-harvesting that began in your own time. But you are not thinking of the great ecological consequences. You are thinking only of the few pennies you will earn. You take your pot of fat. Black, writhing creatures to the shop of the local barber surgeon. He is a man who is both a hair cutter and a doctor, and his shop smells of clipped hair, of strange herbal tonics, and of the faint, coppery scent of old. Dried blood. He inspects your catch with a critical eye, poking at the leeches in your pot. He complains that they are too small, that some of them are the wrong kind. He haggles with you, a man whose hands are clean, who will use these creatures to treat his wealthy clients. Haggling with the poor, dirty, and blood-spattered man who has harvested them with his own body. You are in no position to argue. You accept the pitiful price he offers. You are left with a few coins in your hand, enough to buy a loaf of bread and a piece of cheese. Your legs are covered in dozens of small, bleeding, and intensely itchy wounds. This is your wage. You have been paid for a piece of your own life force. You have escaped the predictable servitude of the manor. You are now a free man, an entrepreneur in the medical supply business. But as you sit on a bench, eating your bread, your legs throbbing and itching, you wonder if this freedom is any better. You know that tomorrow morning, to earn the coins for tomorrow's bread, you will have to return to that same stagnant, stinking pond, and you will have to offer up your own body once again as a living, breathing, and deeply miserable buffet. The life of a leech collector is a life of quiet, itching misery. You have traded the predictable servitude of the manor for the freedom to offer your own blood in the open market. And you have found the transaction wanting. Your legs are a constant. Weeping. An infected mess of small wounds, and the few pennies you earn are barely enough to keep you from starvation. You decide you need a more stable, less parasitic form of employment. You make your way to a larger town, a bustling center of the wool trade. You hear that the cloth guilds are always in need of strong, unskilled men. You do not have the skill to be a weaver, nor the knowledge to be a dyer, but they tell you there is a job that requires no apprenticeship, only a strong back and a weak sense of smell. You are to become a fuller. You do not know what a fuller does. You only know that the pay is a few pennies a day. Paid regularly, a promise of stability that feels like a dream. You are led to the fulling workshop, a long, low, timber-framed building near the river. You open the door, and you are hit by a wave of hot, steamy, and profoundly unpleasant air. It is a smell you have encountered before, in the back alleys and the gutters of the city, but here it is concentrated, weaponized. It is the sharp, eye-watering, ammoniac stench of stale. Industrial-scale quantities of urine. The workshop is a cavern of damp, echoing misery. The floor is lined with several great, shallow wooden vats, each large enough for several men to stand in. You see them. The fullers, they are standing barefoot, up to their knees in these vats. Their faces grim, their bodies moving in a slow, rhythmic, and endless stomp. They are walking, but they are going nowhere. The master fuller, a large man with a permanently wrinkled nose, explains your new job to you. He points to a great, greasy, and incredibly dirty pile of newly woven woolen cloth. This raw cloth, he explains, is full of natural lanolin from the sheep's wool, as well as dirt and grime from the weaving process. It is loose and flimsy. The fuller's job is to clean it and to thicken it, to make the wool fibers mat together, or felt, to create a dense, strong, and valuable piece of fabric, and the primary cleaning agent for this process. The magic ingredient that will cut through the grease and cleanse the wool is stale urine. Your workday begins. A great length of the rough. Greasy cloth is placed into your vat. Then, other workers bring buckets of the foul-smelling yellow liquid and pour it in, soaking the cloth until it is completely submerged. Your job is to take off your shoes, roll up your trousers, and get in. The sensation is one of the most unpleasant you have ever experienced. The liquid is lukewarm, and the cloth beneath your feet is slimy and strangely lumpy. You are now standing barefoot, up to your knees in a vat of stale, lukewarm urine and greasy wool. And now, you must walk. You and two other men in your vat begin to stomp. It is a slow, shuffling, monotonous dance. You lift your feet and you stomp them down, pounding the woolen cloth against the bottom of the vat for hours, all day long. The rhythmic stomping, combined with the chemical action of the ammonia in the urine, slowly cleans the grease from the wool and makes the individual fibers mat and lock together. You have a new career in the exciting textile industry. Your job is a fuller. It's a senior role that primarily involves walking on laundry in a vat of pee all day. The career is very immersive. The stench is absolute. It is a sharp, chemical, ammoniac smell that seems to scour the inside of your nostrils and burn the back of your throat. The air in the workshop is hot and steamy from the vats, which only serves to magnify the odor. You learn to breathe through your mouth, but the taste is as bad as the smell. This is a common historical fact of the medieval cloth trade. Fulling was an essential step, and stale urine, or wash, was a readily available and highly effective detergent. The entire town was, in a way, a part of the production process. The fullers would place large barrels outside their workshops, and the townspeople would contribute their own household urine to the supply. Sometimes, for a small fee, your body begins to suffer in new and interesting ways. Your feet, constantly submerged in the alkaline, corrosive liquid, become raw and chapped. The skin cracks and peels. You develop strange, fungal rashes between your toes, and any small cut or scrape on your legs in this unsanitary environment quickly becomes an angry, red, and infected sore. The work is mind-numbingly boring. You are a human washing machine. You stomp, and you stomp, and you stomp. You do not need to think. You only need to move your legs. Your mind goes numb, lulled into a state of dull. Smelly oblivion by the repetitive, rhythmic nature of the work, sometimes, to aid the process. A fine clay known as fuller's earth is added to the vat. This helps to absorb the remaining oils and impurities, and so you are now stomping in a thick, gritty, and foul-smelling sludge of urine, wool, and clay. Historians will one day debate the impact of the first great wave of mechanization on your trade. They will write of the invention of the water-powered fulling mill, a great machine that used two massive, water-driven wooden hammers to pound the cloth, replacing the need for men like you to stomp on it with your feet. They will argue that this technological innovation shifted the center of the cloth industry from the towns to the countryside, where the fast-flowing rivers could power the new mills. But you are living in a time before this great invention has become widespread in your region. You are the old technology. You are the foot-powered engine of the textile trade. At the end of your 10-hour day, you are finally allowed to get out of the vat. You try to wash your feet and legs, but the smell of the urine seems to have seeped into your very skin. It is a scent you will carry with you always. It is the perfume of your profession. You have traded the bloody, leech-bitten legs of your last job for the raw, urine-soaked feet of this one. It feels like a lateral move. You are paid your few pennies. It is more than you earned as a leech collector, and it is steady. You have a job, you have a purpose. You can afford a small room and a daily loaf of bread. You walk home through the evening streets, and you realize that you have become one of the smells of the city. As you pass people, you see them wrinkle their noses, giving you a wide berth. You are the fuller, the man who smells of stale urine. Your trade is essential, the fine, thick. Woolen cloth you are helping to create will become the warm cloak of a wealthy merchant or the elegant gown of a noble lady. But you, the man who performs this vital, disgusting work, are an object of scorn, a man defined by the very stench of his labor. You fall onto your straw pallet, your feet throbbing, your head swimming from the fumes. You have escaped the unpredictable dangers of the wild marsh. You have found a place in the structured, industrial world of the city, but as you drift off to sleep, the sharp, ammoniac smell of the fulling vat still lingering in your nostrils, you wonder if you have made a good trade. And you hear, from the other men in your cheap lodging house, whispers of a job that pays even better? A job that you only do at night. A job for the bravest and most desperate of men. The job of a gong farmer. Your life as a fuller is a life lived in a cloud of ammonia. Your body permanently steeped in the sharp chemical stench of stale urine. The pay is meager. The work is mind-numbing, and the smell follows you home. A ghost that clings to your clothes and your skin, marking you as a man of a low and unpleasant trade. You have escaped the immediate dangers of the wild, but you have found a different kind of misery in the city's workshops. But in the cheap, crowded lodging house where you sleep, you hear the other men whispering. You hear them talk of a job that pays a wage so good it sounds like a king's ransom. They speak of the gong farmers, the men who work only at night, the men who, it is said, can earn more in a single week than you can in 2 months of stomping on wet wool. The men speak of this job with a mixture of awe and profound disgust. And you, in your desperate poverty, feel a dangerous curiosity begin to stir. The money is a powerful lure, a siren song that promises a way out of your hand-to-mouth existence. And so, you make your inquiries. You seek out the master gong farmer, and you take on the city's most awful, most reviled, and most necessary job. Your work begins when the rest of the city's work is done. You are now a creature of the night. Your workday starts at 9 o'clock, after the great curfew bell has rung and the honest citizens have barred their doors. The law is very clear about your trade. It is a business so foul, so offensive to the senses, that it can only be performed under the cover of darkness. You join a small team of other men, a silent, grim-faced crew. Your tools are simple: a few rickety ladders, several large wooden buckets, thick ropes, and a shovel. Your vehicle is a 2-wheeled cart, a great, foul-smelling, and not entirely watertight barrel on wheels, pulled by a single, sad-looking horse who seems to share in the shame of your profession. Your destination tonight is the home of a wealthy wool merchant, a grand house in one of the city's more prosperous quarters. In the small, paved courtyard at the back of his house is a stone slab with an iron ring set into it. This is the lid of his private cesspit, his privy. For years, all the human waste from the household's latrine has been funneled here, into a deep, stone-lined pit dug beneath the courtyard. And the pit is now full. It is your job to empty it. The work begins. 2 of your crewmates take a great iron crowbar and pry the heavy stone lid from the mouth of the pit. The moment the seal is broken, a great, whooshing sigh escapes from the hole, and a wave of stench so powerful, so concentrated, so utterly and abominably foul washes over you that you stagger back, your stomach heaving, your eyes watering. This is not the familiar, almost ambient stench of the street gutters. This is the distilled, weaponized essence of years of human waste, which has been left to fester and decompose in a dark, airless hole. It is a thick, suffocating gas, a mixture of methane, hydrogen sulfide, and ammonia. And it is a smell that feels like a physical assault. Your new office is a subterranean pit of human waste. The air quality is not great, and the primary risk is literally drowning in filth. Now comes the most terrifying and most dangerous part of the job. The pit must be emptied from the inside. One of you must go down. As the newest member of the crew, the honor falls to you. A rickety wooden ladder is lowered into the black. Gaping hole. An oil lamp is lit and placed at the edge of the pit, its feeble light doing little to penetrate the darkness below. You take a deep breath of the relatively fresh night air, and you begin your descent. You climb down into the earth, into a world of absolute, stinking darkness. The rungs of the ladder are slick with a cold, slimy filth. You go down 10 feet, then 15, and then your foot touches the bottom. Or rather, it does not touch the bottom. It sinks into a thick, semi-liquid mass of unimaginable foulness. You are standing, up to your waist, in a pit of raw, decomposing human sewage. Your work begins. Your partners up above lower a bucket on a rope. Your job is to shovel the thick, heavy sludge into the bucket. You cannot see. You work by feel alone. The work is slow, exhausting, and claustrophobic. The air is so thick with toxic fumes that you feel dizzy, lightheaded. You know the danger. This is an obscure but very real peril of your job. The gong, as it is called, produces a gas that can kill a man, a foul air that can snuff out a candle flame, and a human life in an instant. Suffocation is a constant and immediate threat. You work for hours in this suffocating, stinking, subterranean hell. Bucket after bucket of filth is hauled up to the surface and dumped into the grate. Creaking cart. You are a miner, but you are not mining for silver or for gold. You are mining the dark, secret and shameful waste of the city. The historians will one day debate the waste economy of your world. They will note that this gong you are shoveling was a valuable commodity. It was a rich fertilizer, prized by the farmers and market gardeners outside the city walls. They will argue about whether you are a simple waste remover, or a key part of an early and very smelly circular economy. But you are not thinking about the economic theory. You are thinking only of the filth that is seeping into your clothes, into your skin, and of the next. Blessed breath of fresh, clean air. Finally, the pit is empty. You are hauled up, a creature born from the earth's own foul womb. You are covered from head to toe in a layer of indescribable filth. You stink with a smell so profound and so penetrating that it feels as if it has become a part of your very soul. But your night is not over. Now you must transport your terrible cargo. The great, overflowing barrel cart is hitched to the horse, and you begin your slow, sloshing journey through the sleeping city. You move through the back alleys, your cart leaving a small, foul trail behind it. You are a nocturnal pariah, performing a service that the city desperately needs, but for which it will only ever show you its contempt. You take the gong to its final destination, a great waiting barge on the river. It will be sold and transported to the farmers downstream. Your cargo is unloaded, your work is done. The master gong farmer pays you your wage, and it is, as you had heard, a good one. You have more money in your hand from this single, horrifying night's work than you earned in a full week of stomping and urine at the Fullers. You walk back to your lodging house as the first gray light of dawn begins to break. The city is beginning to wake up. The baker is firing his oven, and the smell of fresh bread on the air is a scent from another, cleaner, more beautiful world. The people of the city, the ones who are just now rising from their clean beds, will go about their day, never once thinking of the dark, stinking, and necessary work you have just performed for them. The work that keeps their city from literally drowning in its own waste. You have survived another night. You have your silver coins, but you know that you will never truly be clean again. The stench of the pit is in your nose, in your hair, under your fingernails. It is a mark of your trade that you will carry with you always. A social stain that separates you from the rest of humanity. You have found the city's most awful and most lucrative job. You have become a gong farmer. Your life as a gong farmer is a life of well-paid, nocturnal, and soul-destroying filth. You earn more money than you have ever seen, but the price is absolute social ostracism. You walk through the streets by day, and people visibly recoil from you. The smell of your trade. A phantom that you can no longer smell yourself but that clings to you always. Is a wall between you and the rest of humanity. The silver coins in your pouch feel heavy with shame. You decide that no wage is worth this unclean existence. You quit. You take your small savings and you seek a new life. A new job. A new smell. You hear that the great work of the age has begun in your city. The bishop, a man of immense ambition and piety, has decreed that a new cathedral will be built. A magnificent stone edifice that will scrape the very heavens and stand for 1,000 years as a testament to the glory of God. Such a project, requires an army of men, and you, a strong man with no particular skill, are exactly the kind of raw muscle they are looking for. You have traded the despised work of the night for the holy work of the day. You are not to be a stonemason or a carpenter. Those are the jobs of skilled, respected artisans who belong to powerful guilds. Your job is at the very beginning of the process. At the source of all this future glory, you are sent to the quarry. You are marched out of the city with 100 other unskilled laborers, a few miles outside the town. You arrive at a great, open wound in the earth, a vast limestone quarry that will provide the literal building blocks for the house of God. The scene is one of disciplined, industrial chaos. The air is thick with a fine, white, choking dust that coats everything with a ghostly pallor, and the noise is a deafening, continuous symphony of metal on stone the sharp. Rhythmic clink, clink, clink of 1,000 hammers and chisels. A sound that will become the new rhythm of your life. Your work here is a dance with death, a daily gamble against the indifferent physics of weight and gravity. You are given a heavy iron pick and a sledgehammer, and you are assigned to a work gang at the base of a great limestone cliff face. Your job is to help cut the great blocks of stone from the earth. The work is brutal in its simplicity. You and the other men in your gang, under the direction of a master quarryman, begin by cutting deep channels into the rock face. You work for hours, your arms and back screaming with the strain, the jarring impact of your pickaxe on the stone traveling up through your bones. The sun beats down on the white stone, and the glare is blinding. The dust, a fine, abrasive powder of silica and lime, fills your lungs with every breath. A slow poison that you know causes the Mason's disease, the lung sickness that leaves old quarrymen coughing up blood when the channels are deep enough. The process of splitting the great block begins. Iron wedges are hammered into the rock. You swing a 16-pound sledgehammer in a grate. Arcing motion. Your movements in time with the other men in your gang. The sound of the hammers striking the wedges is a grate. Ringing chorus. You hammer. And you hammer. Until a thin, hairline crack appears in the stone, with a final series of mighty blows. The crack widens, and with a great, groaning, tearing sound. A block of stone the size of a small cottage splits away from the cliff face and crashes down onto the quarry floor with a shudder that you feel through the soles of your feet. But the danger has just begun. Now this multi-ton monster must be moved. It is a slow, terrifying process of livers. and rollers, and brute. Coordinated human force. You are on the levers. Great wooden beams. Your entire body straining to lift one edge of the great stone just enough for other men to shove a wooden roller beneath it. A snapped lever, a slipped grip, could mean a crushed limb or a crushed man. You watch as the skilled masons, the freemen of the guild, descend upon the rough block. They are the artists. They begin the work of dressing the stone, of shaping it into a perfect rectangular ashlar. You see them making their marks on the stone, an obscure but vital part of their trade. Each mason has his own personal symbol, a mason's mark, which he carves into every stone he finishes. It is his signature, a mark of his pride, and the way he ensures he is paid for his work. You, the unskilled laborer, have no such mark. You are anonymous, your contribution invisible, unrecorded. Your job is simply to be the muscle. You clear the waste rock, you haul the tools, and you watch the ever-present danger of the quarry face above you. Rockfalls are a constant threat. The work of quarrying weakens the very structure of the cliff, and sometimes, without warning, a section will give way. You see it happen. A section of the cliff face above a neighboring work gang suddenly collapses. A small avalanche of rock and stone, a scream, quickly cut off when the dust settles. 2 men are gone, buried under tons of rock. The work in your section of the quarry stops for a moment of grim, silent respect. And then the overseer's voice barks an order, and the sound of the hammers begins again. The cathedral must be built, the work must go on. The dead are simply the price. The quarry has a very simple and effective workplace safety policy. The policy is God's will be done. It covers most accidents, particularly the fatal ones. Historians will one day debate the nature of the labor force that built the great cathedrals. Was it a joyous, communal expression of faith, as some romantic stories would have it, or was it, as your own aching body tells you, a great enterprise built upon the exploitation of a vast, poor, and powerless workforce? A mixture of paid but poorly treated freemen and conscripted serfs fulfilling their feudal obligations. The answer, you know, is a complex one, but there is no joy in this labor. There is only the dust, the noise, the pain, and the fear. At the end of the day, you are given your pay. A few small, thin silver coins. It is a pitiful wage for such dangerous and exhausting work. You eat your meal of bread and cheese with the other laborers in a crude camp near the quarry. The conversation is of little but the day's work, the nearness of death, and the hope of surviving until the next payday. You have traded the foul stench of the cesspit for the choking dust of the quarry. You have traded a job that made you a social outcast for a job that might kill you at any moment. You have left behind the work of the night, the work of shame, and you have taken on the work of the day, the work of building a great and glorious house of God. But as you lie on your hard pallet, your lungs full of dust, your body a landscape of new and different pains, you realize that for a man at the bottom of the world, all awful jobs share a certain terrible similarity. They are all just different ways of being slowly and systematically ground down into dust yourself. The dust of the quarry is a ghost that lives permanently in your lungs. A fine, white powder that you can feel with every ragged breath. You have survived your time as a builder of cathedrals, a man who danced with death for a few pennies a day. But your body is battered, and the constant, jarring labor has taken its toll. You decide you need a different kind of work, a job that is less about brute strength and more about cunning. You return to the city, a place you now know is a great, sprawling ecosystem of filth and opportunity. And you hear of a new and pressing need. The city is in the grip of a plague. Not a great, sweeping human pestilence, but a plague of a different kind. A plague of rats. They are everywhere. They are a bold, swaggering army of shadow dwellers. swarming in the alleys, infesting the granaries, and contaminating the food of the rich and poor alike. The city council, in its wisdom, has declared a war on them, and they are hiring soldiers. They are offering a bounty, a single copper coin, for every rat tail delivered to the town hall. It is a job that requires no skill, no apprenticeship, only a strong stomach and a lack of fear. You decide to enlist. You are about to become a rat catcher. Your new profession is a nocturnal one. The rats are the kings of the city's nights, and so you must hunt them in their own domain. In the darkness, your tools are simple. You have a thick, stout wooden club. You have a sturdy burlap sack to hold your grim harvest. And you have your most important asset. Your partner in this filthy business, a small, wiry, and exceptionally vicious-looking terrier dog named Pip. He is a veteran of the rat wars, his muzzle a roadmap of old scars. His entire being is a tightly coiled spring of pure, unadulterated hatred for all things rodent. Your workday begins as the honest citizens are barring their doors for the night. You and Pip head out into the dark, empty streets, your way lit by a single, smoky, foul-smelling tallow lantern. You are the city's secret, nocturnal immune system, a hunter of the pestilence that thrives in its dark corners. Your hunting grounds are the places of filth and decay. You begin in the back alleys behind the butcher's shambles, where the discarded offal and the blood-soaked ground are a paradise for your prey. You and your dog work as a perfectly coordinated team. You hold the lantern high. Pip, his body low to the ground, darts into the shadows, his keen nose and sharper ears detecting the slightest rustle or squeak. He freezes, one paw raised, his entire body pointing towards a great, overflowing pile of garbage. You approach silently. Pip lets out a sharp, savage bark and dives into the pile. A half-dozen large, black rats explode from the refuse, scattering in every direction. The hunt is on. It is a chaotic, fast, and brutal business. Pip is a whirlwind of snarling, snapping fury, his jaws closing on one rat, shaking it until its neck is broken, then dropping it and instantly pouncing on another. Your job is to deal with the ones that get past him. You bring your club down with a series of quick, hard thuds. The work is fast, bloody, and surprisingly exhilarating. After the alley is clear, you move on to your next hunting ground, the sewers. You lift a heavy iron grate, and you descend into the familiar, stinking world of the city's underbelly, a place you remember from a different life. Down here, in the river of rot, is the rats' great kingdom. They are fatter here, and bolder. You wade through the filth, the lantern casting long, monstrous shadows on the slimy brick walls, while Pip runs along the narrow ledges, his barks echoing in the enclosed space. But the greatest danger of your new job is not the darkness or the filth, it is the rats themselves. A cornered rat is a fierce and dangerous animal. Its long, yellow incisors are razor sharp, and they are carriers of 100 different invisible poisons. A bite is almost a certainty in your profession, and you know that a bite can lead to a strange, lingering sickness, a fever that can last for weeks, a common ailment known simply as rat bite fever, and then there is the other, greater fear, the fear that defines your entire age. You know that the rats are associated with the great pestilence, the Black Death, which swept through this land a generation ago and still haunts the memory of every living person. You do not understand the mechanism. You do not know about the fleas that live on the rats and carry the deadly bacterium. You only know, from a deep, instinctual, and widely held belief, that where there are too many rats, the plague will surely follow. Every rat you kill is a small victory for the health of the city. But every rat you touch, every flea that might jump from its dying fur onto your own skin, is a gamble with your own life. Historians will one day debate your effectiveness. Did the work of men like you actually have any significant impact on the vast, teeming rodent population of a medieval city? Or were you simply skimming a tiny fraction from an endless, inexhaustible supply, and did your very profession, the act of handling hundreds of potentially plague-infected animals, actually make you a vector of the very disease you were fighting? The academic debate is a luxury you cannot afford. You only know that a rat's tail is worth a copper coin, and you need the coins to eat tomorrow. One night, you are called to the warehouse of a wealthy merchant, his great stone-walled cellar, where he stores his sacks of precious grain, is infested. He has promised you a bonus if you can clear it out. You and Pip descend into the darkness. The cellar is a rat paradise. You can hear them, a great unseen army, chittering and scratching in the walls. You set to your work, and in a far, dark corner, behind a stack of rotting barrels, you find something that makes your blood run cold. It is a rat king. This is a rare, grotesque, and deeply feared phenomenon. It is a writhing, pulsing knot of a dozen or more live rats, their long, scaly tails hopelessly and inextricably tangled and matted together with filth, and blood, and dried excrement. They are a single, monstrous, multi-headed organism, bound together in a living Gordian knot of their own making. The sight of it is a vision from a nightmare, and it is considered one of the most terrible omens a man can see. You and Pip deal with the horror, your club rising and falling in the flickering lamplight, but the sight of it leaves you shaken, a deep, superstitious dread settling in your heart. At the end of your long, dark shift, you perform the final, grim task of your trade. You take the dozens of dead rats you have collected in your sack, and with your knife, you cut off their tails. You make a neat, bloody bundle of them, tied together with a piece of string. This is your proof of work. This is the currency of your profession. As the sun rises, you go to the town hall. You present your grisly bundle to the city clerk, who recoils from you with a look of undisguised disgust. He counts the tails, and then he counts out your bounty. The small copper coins feeling heavy and dirty in your hand. You have a new career in urban pest control. Your job involves crawling through dark, filthy sewers at night, fighting armies of diseased rodents with a stick. You are the city's protector, its champion in the war against the vermin. But as you walk through the morning market, the people of the city do not look at you with gratitude. They look at you with contempt. You are the rat catcher, a man who lives in the filth, who smells of the sewers, a man who is as unclean and as despised as the very creatures he hunts. You have found a job that pays, but you have found a new kind of social damnation, and you hear whispers of another, even more despised, but perhaps even more essential, profession. You hear that the public executioner, a man whose work is also with death and filth, is looking for a new assistant. The pay, they say, is even better. And you wonder what it would be like to graduate from hunting the pests of the animal kingdom to dealing with the pests of the human one. Your life as a rat catcher is a life lived in the shadows, a nocturnal war waged in the city's filthiest corners. You earn your bounty of copper coins, your sack of bloody tails a testament to your skill. But you are a pariah. The same citizens who benefit from your grim work shrink from you in the daylight, their faces filled with disgust. You carry the stench of the sewer and the stigma of the rat upon you. You are a necessary evil, and you are despised for it. The pay is barely enough to survive, and the risk of a fever from a rat's bite is a constant, gnawing fear. You decide you need a change. You seek a profession that offers a better, more stable wage, a position that, while perhaps not respected, is at least a formal and recognized part of the city's machinery. You hear that the master executioner, a man whose work is also with death but on a much grander scale, is in need of a new assistant. The thought is a chilling one, but the promise of a steady salary, paid by the city itself, is a powerful lure for a man who has lived hand to mouth for so long. You have a strong stomach, a necessary qualification you have earned in the sewers and the swamps. You present yourself to him. You are hired. You have now entered into the most grim, most feared, and most socially ostracized of all the medieval trades. You are the executioner's grim assistant. The master executioner is not the brutish, hooded monster of popular imagination. He is a skilled professional, a craftsman of a sort. His trade is often hereditary, a dark art passed down from father to son. He is an official of the court, a vital instrument of the king's justice. He is also a man who is utterly and completely shunned by the very society he serves. He is forced to live in a specific, isolated house outside the city walls. No one will eat with him. No one will speak to him except on official business. And you, as his assistant, now share in his profound isolation. Your job is not, at first, to participate in the executions themselves. You are an apprentice, and you must learn the trade from the ground up. Your duties are the preparatory and the cleanup work, the tasks that are in many ways even more grim than the final act itself. Your first duty is to maintain the tools. You spend your days in the executioner's workshop, a place that smells of old iron and whetstones, and a faint, coppery scent of old blood that you can never quite scrub away. You learn to care for the instruments of justice. You sharpen the grate, heavy bearded axe used for beheadings, its edge so fine you can shave with it. You inspect the ropes for the gallows, checking for any fraying or weakness that could cause them to snap. And you clean and oil the instruments of judicial torture, the thumbscrews, the iron boots, the mechanisms of the rack. Your work is the quiet, methodical maintenance of the machinery of pain and death. When a public execution is scheduled, your duties expand. You must prepare the stage. You walk to the public square, and you inspect the scaffold. You ensure the wooden platform is stable, that the block is secure. If it is a hanging, you must climb the gallows and ensure the trapdoor mechanism is working smoothly. You are a stagehand for a play where the final act is always a tragedy. On the day of the execution, you are a key, if secondary, figure in the great public spectacle. You stand at the foot of the scaffold, your face a practiced mask of indifference. You assist the executioner. You might help to bind the prisoner's hands. You might hold the ladder steady. You are a silent, functional presence in the grate. Solemn theater of death, but your true, horrifying work begins after the main event is over, when the crowd begins to disperse, when the spectacle has ended. You are left to deal with the body. You are the undertaker for the damned after a hanging. You must climb the gallows, cut the rope, and lower the heavy, lifeless body to the ground. After a beheading, you must perform the grim task of retrieving the head and placing it, along with the body, onto a cart, and for the most heinous of crimes, like treason. The work is even more terrible. The sentence is often to be hanged, drawn, and quartered, while the master executioner performs the skilled, ritualized dismemberment. It is your job to handle the parts. You must take the severed head of the traitor and carry it to the city gates, where you climb a ladder and place it on a long iron spike above the gatehouse. It is to be a permanent, rotting warning to all who enter the city of the price of treason. You then take the 4 quartered sections of the man's torso and transport them to the 4 corners of the city, to be displayed in a similar fashion. You are a delivery man of horror. Your cargo the dismembered remains of a human being. After the parts are displayed, you must return to the scaffold and clean up. You take a bucket of water and a rough broom, and you scrub the blood from the wooden planks of the platform. This is your life. It is a life lived in constant, intimate contact with death in its most violent and ritualized forms. You are paid a wage by the city, and you might even have a small share in the obscure but common perks of the trade. The executioner was often entitled to the clothes of the condemned, a small, ghoulish bonus. He might also have a side business selling the rope from a hanging, which was believed to be a powerful good luck charm, or even selling the body parts of the executed to the city's barber surgeons for their anatomical studies. You are a part of this grim and gruesome economy. Historians will one day debate the strange social position of the executioner. Was he a hated outcast or a respected, if feared? Official. The truth is that he was both. He was an essential part of the legal system, but his trade, his constant contact with death and blood, made him ritually unclean. A pariah. And you share in his curse. No respectable person in the city will speak to you. You are feared. You are reviled. You are as much an outcast as the criminals whose bodies you handle. The psychological toll of this work is immense. At night, you are haunted by the faces of the men you have helped to kill. You see the look of terror in their eyes in their final moments. You feel the dead weight of their bodies in your hands. You become desensitized, your heart growing a hard, calloused shell around itself. It is the only way to survive. You stand at the city gate at the end of a long day. You have just placed the head of a convicted traitor on a spike. Below you, the life of the city continues. People are laughing, trading, living. You look at them, and you feel a profound and unbridgeable distance. You are a part of their world, a necessary guardian of their laws and their safety, but you are not one of them. You can never be one of them. Your life is a lonely, silent vigil at the foot of the gallows, a grim and terrible trade in the necessary business of death. Your life as the executioner's assistant is a life of profound and absolute isolation. You have a steady wage from the city and a roof over your head, but you are a ghost in the world of the living. The townspeople shrink from you. Children run when they see you coming. You are a man whose hands are permanently stained with the work of death, and that stain is a mark upon your soul that everyone can see. The loneliness is a deeper kind of cold than any winter's night. You decide you cannot bear it. You must find a new trade, a job that deals with the living, not the dead, a profession that will allow you back into the community of men. You take your small savings and you apprentice yourself to a man whose trade is both common and respected. He is the local barber surgeon. His shop is a fixture in the town, a place where men come to have their beards trimmed, their hair cut, and their gossip shared. But the red and white striped pole outside his door tells another story. The red is for blood, the white for bandages. This is not just a place for grooming. It is a place of healing and of pain. You have left the world of formal, legal death. You are about to enter the messy, often accidental, and far more common world of medical death. Your master, a talkative man named Thomas, begins your training with the barber side of the trade. You learn to whip up a lather from a block of hard soap. You learn to hone a straight razor on a leather strop until it is sharp enough to shave a man's thoughts. You learn the simple, clean, and respectable art of the haircut and the shave. For a few weeks, you believe you have finally found a clean and honest trade. Then, your real training begins. You must learn the surgeon side of the business. This is the common historical reality of your time. The university-trained physicians are an elite and expensive class. They diagnose illnesses based on the complex theory of the humors. They study the stars and the color of a patient's urine. But they rarely, if ever, touch a patient's body. The actual, hands-on, messy, and bloody work of medicine, the cutting, the pulling. The sawing is left to lower status craftsmen like your master. It is left to the barber surgeons. Your first lesson is in bloodletting. You learn that almost every illness, from a fever to a bout of melancholy, is caused by an imbalance of the four humors, and the most common culprit is an excess of bad blood. Your master teaches you how to find a vein on the inside of a patient's arm, how to tie a tourniquet, and how to make a quick, clean incision with a small knife called a fleam. You learn to collect the dark, thick blood in a small brass bowl, and to judge by its color and consistency whether the bad humors have been successfully removed. It is a messy business, and it often seems to leave the patient weaker than when they started. But it is the absolute bedrock of all medicine. Your next lesson is in dentistry. A farmer comes into the shop, his face swollen, his eyes crazed with the pain of an abscessed tooth. There are no anesthetics. There are no delicate instruments. Your master's dental tools are a fearsome-looking set of heavy iron pliers. The procedure is a brutal act of force. The farmer is given a great draught of strong ale to dull his senses. You and another apprentice are tasked with holding him down in the chair. Your master forces the man's mouth open, gets a firm grip on the offending tooth with his pliers, places his foot on the man's chest for leverage, and pulls. The sound is a sickening crunch of breaking tooth and bone. The farmer screams, a sound that is muffled by the surgeon's hand. The tooth finally comes free, a ragged, broken thing with a piece of the man's jawbone still attached to it. The empty socket gushes blood. Your master gives the man a cloth to bite down on and another cup of ale, and sends him on his way. You have just performed a successful tooth extraction, but the true test of your nerve, the pinnacle of the barber surgeon's art, is the amputation. A young man is brought in, a woodsman who has been crushed by a falling tree. His leg is a mangled, blackening ruin of shattered bone and dead flesh. The gangrene has set in. You can smell the sweet, foul stench of its decay from across the room. There is only one choice: the leg must come off. The procedure is a race against pain and death. The young man is given as much wine as he can drink, until he is in a drunken stupor. He is then held down on a long wooden table by 4 strong men. Your job is to hold the leg. Your master takes his saw, a simple, coarse-toothed blade, the same kind a carpenter would use, and he begins to saw through the thigh. Just above the wound, the sound is a wet, grating, and rhythmic sawing of flesh and bone. The young man, despite the wine, screams, a high, thin, animal sound of pure, unimaginable agony. The room is filled with the thick, coppery smell of blood. The surgeon works with a frantic speed, his face a mask of concentration. The key to a successful medieval surgery is speed. You want to saw through that leg as quickly as possible, mostly so the patient's screaming doesn't put off the gentleman who is waiting for a haircut. The leg comes free, but the ordeal is not over. Now the bleeding must be stopped. An assistant brings a red-hot iron, a cautery from the hearth fire. Your master takes the glowing, hissing iron and presses it against the raw, open stump of the young man's leg. The smell of burning flesh now fills the room, a smell you remember with a shudder from your previous profession. The young man, mercifully, faints from the pain. The wound is sealed. He has survived the procedure. He will now face the next great battle, the almost certain infection that will follow. Historians will one day debate the role of men like your master. Were they ignorant butchers, as the university physicians claimed? Or were they skilled craftsmen who, through sheer, bloody, hands-on experience, laid the foundations for the future science of surgery? You only know the brutal reality of the work. You are a man who is fighting against death with a set of tools that are often just as dangerous as the diseases themselves. You clean the blood and the bone dust from the floor of the shop. You wash the surgical instruments in a bucket of cold water. Ready for the next patient. You have left the world of the dead behind, but you have found that the world of the living is just as messy, just as bloody, and often just as fatal. You have found your respectable trade. You are a healer, of a sort, but your work is a business built on the screams, the pain, and the suffering of your fellow man. Your life as a barber surgeon is a life lived in the intimate, messy, and often tragic theater of the human body. You have traded the public, state-sanctioned death of the executioner's yard for the private, accidental, and far more common deaths of the sickbed and the operating table. You are a respected craftsman, a member of a guild. People come to you for help, but you are haunted by the screams of the men whose teeth you have pulled, by the sight of the infected wounds you could not heal, by the memory of the young woodsman whose leg you helped to saw off. You have had enough of the city, of the sickness, of the blood. You yearn for peace. You yearn for silence. You yearn for solitude. You take your small savings. You buy an axe and a shovel, and you leave the city behind. You walk for days, deep into the great, tangled forests that still cover much of the land. You are seeking a new profession, a new life, one that is as far removed from the press of humanity as it is possible to get. You are going to become a charcoal burner. It is a trade that sounds almost poetic. A quiet, contemplative life spent in the green heart of the forest. A life of self-sufficiency. In harmony with nature. You soon learn that the reality is, like all other jobs you have known, its own unique and specialized form of misery. The misery of the charcoal burner is a misery of absolute, soul-crushing loneliness. Your new home is a tiny, crude hut you build yourself from branches and turf, deep in a section of the forest that has been leased to you by the local lord for this very purpose. Your nearest neighbor is a half-day's walk away. You are utterly, completely alone. Your only companions are the birds, the squirrels, and the deep, profound silence of the ancient woods. Your social life is very peaceful. You spend most of your time talking to trees and arguing with squirrels. The forest is a great listener. Your work is dictated by the immense and constant demand for your product. Charcoal is the essential fuel of your age. The common firewood that a baker or a housewife uses does not burn hot enough for the work of a blacksmith or a smelter. To forge a sword, to make a suit of armor, to produce the iron that is the very skeleton of your civilization. You need the intense, clean heat of charcoal, and you are the man who makes it. The process is a slow, patient, and incredibly laborious form of alchemy. Your first task is that of a woodsman. You must fell the trees yourself, your axe ringing out in the otherwise silent forest. You then cut the great logs into uniform lengths and haul them, with immense effort, to your clearing. To here. You begin the skilled work of building the kiln. The mealer? It is not a kiln of brick and stone. It is a great, carefully constructed mound of the wood itself, stacked in a tight, conical shape around a central chimney. When it is finished, it is a perfect, geometric dome of wood, 20 feet across and 10 feet high. Then you must cover it. You spend days cutting turf from the forest floor and plastering it over the entire mound, creating a thick, insulating, airtight shell of earth and grass. You leave only a few small vents at the base and the opening of the chimney at the top. Now comes the most critical and most demanding part of your job. You light a fire in the chimney, which drops down and ignites the wood at the very heart of the mound. But you do not want the wood to burn. You want it to smolder. You want it to pyrolyze. To cook in a low oxygen environment. A process that will burn off all the water, the sap, and the impurities, leaving behind nothing but pure, lightweight carbon, pure charcoal. And to do this, you must tend the kiln, day and night, for a week, or sometimes 2. You cannot sleep for more than an hour at a time. You must constantly circle your grate. Smoldering earth mount, watching it, listening to it, smelling it. Your job is to control the flow of air. You watch the color of the smoke that seeps from the vents. A thick yellowish smoke means the process is working. A thin, bluish smoke means the fire is too hot. You must then rush to plug that vent with more turf and dirt. A black smoke means the kiln is about to erupt into open flame. A disaster that would destroy your entire batch. Turning it into worthless ash, you must then open a new vent on the opposite side to draw the heat away. Your life becomes a slow, quiet, and constant dance with a single, smoldering, half-living earth beast. You are a fire watcher. Your senses attuned to the subtle language of the smoke, and you are alone. The loneliness is a physical presence. Days pass without you hearing another human voice. You begin to talk to yourself, to the trees, to the mound. The deep silence of the forest, which at first felt so peaceful, begins to feel oppressive, menacing. The snap of a twig in the night makes you jump. The call of an owl sounds like a demon's cry. You become a strange creature of the woods, your face and clothes permanently blackened with soot, your eyes red-rimmed from the constant smoke. On the rare occasions you must make a trip to the nearest village for supplies. The people shrink from you. They look at you with suspicion and fear. Charcoal burners, in the folklore of your time, are sinister and uncanny figures. They are men who live alone in the dark woods, who understand the secret arts of fire, who are believed to be in league with the spirits of the forest. Or worse, you have traded the social damnation of the gong farmer for the superstitious dread of the charcoal burner. The local villagers think you're a weird, scary hermit who probably talks to demons. This is mostly because you are a weird, scary hermit. You haven't quite met any demons yet, but the week is young. Historians will one day debate the environmental impact of your trade. They will see the great, insatiable demand for charcoal as a primary driver of deforestation in medieval Europe. They will see you not as a rustic craftsman, but as the humble, frontline soldier in a great, pre-industrial energy industry that was reshaping the very landscape of the continent. Finally, after a week or more of sleepless vigilance, the smoke from the vents turns a clear, pale blue. The process is complete, Mine. You seal all the vents in the chimney, starving the kiln of all air, and you let it cool for several days. Then comes the moment of truth. You break open the earthen shell of your kiln, and inside, if you have done your job correctly, is a beautiful, black, and perfectly formed mound of charcoal. It is light, brittle, and rings with a metallic sound when struck. You have turned a forest into fuel. You load the charcoal onto your cart, and you make the long, lonely journey to the town to sell it to the blacksmiths. You are paid your silver. It is a good price. But as you return to your small, silent hut in the heart of the forest, the coins in your pouch feel cold and worthless. You have found your peace. You have found your solitude. But you have also found a loneliness so profound that it feels like a kind of living death. You sit by your own small fire at night, and you wonder what it would be like to speak to another human being. You hear stories, whispers on your rare trips to the village, of an even more solitary, more feared, and more mysterious job. A job that exists at the very edge of the human and the divine. A job that requires a man to be utterly alone, but places him at the very center of the community's greatest fear, the fear of a sinful death. You begin to hear of the Sin Eater, your life as a charcoal burner in the deep. Silent Forest has brought you the peace you thought you craved, but you have learned that there is a difference between solitude and a loneliness so profound, it begins to feel like a living death. You are a ghost, a man who has forgotten the sound of his own voice. You can no longer bear it. You abandon your smoking earth mound, your lonely hut, and you drift back into the world of men. A strange, soot-stained figure with a haunted look in your eyes. You find yourself in the most remote and superstitious corner of the kingdom. The rugged borderlands were the old ways. The folk beliefs that predate the great cathedrals still hold a powerful sway. You are a man with no land, no trade, and no connections. You are a beggar, living on the thin, bitter soup of charity. And it is here, at the absolute bottom of the social ladder, that you learn of one final, awful, and profoundly strange profession. It is a job for a man who has nothing left to lose. A man who is willing to trade his own soul for a piece of bread. A wealthy, but widely despised. Local landowner has died suddenly. He fell from his horse, his neck broken, with a lifetime of sins and without the benefit of a priest to hear his final confession. His family is in a state of deep, spiritual terror. They believe his unshriven soul will be unable to rest, that it will become a hungry ghost, doomed to haunt their lands for eternity. They are in need of a service, a dark and ancient folk ritual. They are in need of a sin eater. You are approached by a grim-faced servant of the family. He does not ask you if you want the job. He sees the desperation and the hollowness in your eyes, and he knows you will accept. The pay is a single groat, a few pennies, and a bowl of ale. And all you must do is eat a meal. You are led to the dead man's house at dusk. The family members will not look at you. They shrink from you as you pass, as if you are already a creature of the underworld. You are a necessary, but deeply contaminating. Part of their grief. You are led into the main room, and you see the corpse. The dead landowner is laid out on a great wooden table, dressed in his finest clothes, a single candle burning at his head and his feet. The room is silent and thick with the smell of death and fear. And now, the ritual begins. A woman, her face veiled, brings out a simple wooden trencher with a single, thick crust of dark bread, and a wooden bowl filled with ale. She does not hand them to you. With a trembling hand, she places the bread and the ale directly onto the chest of the dead body. This is the central act of a tradition, so old its origins are lost to time. A folk ritual that historians will one day debate. Was it a remnant of an ancient, pre-Christian ancestor worship? Was it a strange, magical interpretation of the Christian Eucharist you do not know? You only know the grim reality of what you must now do. Your job is to eat the sins of the dead. You must take the bread and the ale from the corpse's chest. As you do so, it is believed that all the unconfessed sins of the dead man, his greed, his cruelty, his lust, his lies will mystically pass into the food and drink, and when you consume them, you will be taking his sins into your own body, his damnation into your own soul. You are a spiritual scapegoat, a human sponge for the moral filth of another man's life. You take the crust of bread. It is cold and stale. You take the bowl of ale. It is flat and bitter. You stand over the corpse, and you eat, and you drink. The family of the deceased, listening from the next room, hears you chewing and swallowing, and with each bite, with each sip, they feel a sense of relief. The sins are being transferred. The soul of their loved one is being cleansed. When you have finished the meal, you must perform the final part of the ritual. You must stand over the body and make the formal proclamation. Your voice is strange. Hollow sound in the silent, candle-lit room. I give easement and rest now to thee. Dear man, you intone, the words of the ancient formula feeling thick and strange on your tongue. Come not down the lanes or in our meadows, and for thy peace. You pause, and you speak the most terrible words of all. I pawn my own soul. The moment the words are spoken, the atmosphere changes. The solemnity is shattered. The family members rush into the room, but not to thank you. Their faces are now filled with terror and disgust. You have performed your function. You have absorbed the sins. You are now a vessel of pure, concentrated evil. You are a walking, breathing curse. Get out! The dead man's son screams at you, his voice high with fear. He throws the groat, your payment, onto the floor, as if he is afraid to touch you. The women begin to shoo you out, making the sign against evil with their hands. They chase you from the house, throwing stones and curses at your back. You are now a sin-eater, and it is the loneliest, most feared, and most miserable of all the awful jobs your world has to offer. You are a necessary part of the community's death rituals, but you are not allowed to be a part of the community. You must live in a remote hut, far from the village. The townspeople will leave food for you on a stone at a crossroads, but they will never speak to you. They will run from you if they see you in the woods. To look upon the sin-eater, they believe, is to invite bad luck. To see a man who is already damned. You live out the rest of your days in this profound, spiritual and social isolation. You are the great, final paradox of your time. You are the man who, for a few pennies and a crust of bread, offers a form of salvation to the dead. And in doing so, you have taken on a kind of damnation for yourself. You are the most feared of men, but you are also, in your own strange, terrible and forgotten way, a kind of savior, the lonely figure of the sin-eater, a man who carries the weight of 100 other souls, fades into the mists of folklore and forgotten time. Let the image of his strange, sad and sacred meal recede. Let the memory of the superstitious, fearful world he inhabited dissolve into the gentle, rational quiet of your own room. His story, and our journey through the awful jobs of the past, is now complete. Bring your mind back to the present, to the comfort of your bed, to the safety of your home. You live in a world that has found different ways to carry its burdens, different rituals to cope with its grief. You are a part of a community, not an outcast from it. The sins of the past are a matter for history and for memory, not for a single, burdened soul to consume. Let a feeling of peace settle over you. The stories of the past, with all their hardship and their strange, dark corners, can serve as a powerful reminder of the simple grace of our own time. Your own long day is over. There are no more grim tasks to be performed, no more spiritual burdens to be shouldered. Your only job now is to rest. Allow the quiet of the night to be your sanctuary. Let go of the stories. Let go of the day, and let your mind become still and drift, gently and peacefully, into a deep, untroubled, and restorative sleep.